Welcome back. We are in the middle of our charity series. How can I have more charity in my life? And this is video 4. We are talking about how charity vaunteth not itself. What does that mean exactly? Well, the word vaunt means to boast or to brag about yourself. And usually it's referred to when we're talking about being excessive about our bragging, because Paul says, charity vaunteth not itself. And when he says that, what he's doing is he's emphasizing that true love, because that's what charity is, pure love of Christ. True love is not boastful or arrogant. You don't need to make sure that you have to prove something about yourself. If someone else is telling a story about something they did where they had an achievement, you don't have to feel like you need to step in and, oh, well, I did that too, and I caught a bigger fish, or I also know how to do that. We don't have to show that we know it too. We can let someone else be in the limelight. Because when we are vaunting ourselves, it can turn into an arrogant thing. So a person who has genuine Christ-like love doesn't need to try to elevate themselves above someone else. It's okay to talk about your achievements. It's okay to be healthy about the things that you know you're good at. That's fine. But when you need to draw undue attention to your own needs or the things that you've achieved or your qualities, that's vaunting yourself. So one of the ways that I notice I do this, as I've been thinking about this, preparing for this video, I started realizing, wow, I didn't realize there are times when, for example, we're in a situation and I'm a teacher who trains in the same thing we're talking about. And I notice that sometimes I'll wait because I think someone is going to say, and Teresa teaches this and she's good at it. I don't need them to. It's not like I feel bad if they don't, but I'm sort of expecting that they might do that because I'm vaunting myself. Sometimes I do it and it's totally healthy. I do it in a way that is, and I know what I'm good at and I'm okay to say so. That's different. I'm talking about times when it's almost like this unhealthy need, and I'm hoping they'll recognize me. I'm hoping I'm the one who will be pointed out or stand out. And one of the things I'm trying to figure out how to do this in a powerful way and do it in a healthy way that is Christ-like is because I do a lot of teaching, I do a lot of training in the business world as well as in my church and with spiritual things. What happens is, especially this is specifically more of a challenge in the business world, where when I'm presenting, if somebody introduces me really well, we know that psychologically, if I get a great introduction, then what that does is it gives me immediate credibility. Now people are thinking, oh, this is someone I want to listen to. When I'm introducing someone else, I make sure that I say things in a way that the audience is thinking, oh, wow, I can't believe I get to listen to this person. I've got to pay attention. I know how to do that for someone. I'm very good at it. And I understand the psychology behind if it's not a good introduction. So when someone gives me an introduction that gives me no credibility, then I will stand up and I will say things, I hope, in a way that establishes my credibility without bragging. But I've really been looking at that because I think there are times when it's too much. I'm trying to prove that I'm good and I'm doing it for the wrong reasons. It's like I need some of that accolade, or I need people to think a certain thing about me. So I'm going to really be watching this, and I want to be careful about it. So I want to invite you, as you're watching this video and you're trying to pick the one thing that you're going to work on this week, think about times when you do this. Be aware. You'll start to notice times when someone else is talking and you kind of can't wait to say something about what you did, or how if they went on this trip and they're telling this exciting story and you're saying, oh yeah, we went there and we did this. Not that it's a bad thing to share your story as well, but if you aren't letting them enjoy the limelight, they're trying to share something exciting and fun. Don't feel like you need to one-up them. Don't point out a comparison between what they're telling and something that you did or didn't do. Some people do this in the opposite direction. Someone else will say something amazing that they did, and we, as a human natural man, will say, oh, I've never done anything like that. Or, oh, I don't think I could do that. We kind of lower ourselves beneath. And all these character traits that we're talking about with charity and all of these character traits that we're talking about with this charity series, realize it's not just for us. We vaunt not ourselves, but you don't do it in a healthy way with other people either, because that lessens you. So I want to share a few different things that we do that are vaunting so that we can kind of start to be aware. The first one is when we're seeking validation through social media. People do that a lot nowadays. In this age where we put everything online and people are telling their stories online, it's really easy to kind of shift it, make it sound a certain way so that it looks perfect from the outside. And often what's happening is we're seeking validation or admiration from our peers, from other people. So think about your intentions when you are posting, when you are sharing information about your life or telling about your kids or your family. Make sure you have the right intentions in your heart. The second thing we'll do is kind of a one-upmanship. We'll do it in conversations. We'll do it in our actions. A lot of times this happens when instead of listening and empathizing or being excited for the person for what they're telling, what will happen is we'll try to outdo the other person's experience. With our story, we'll make the conversation a platform for self-aggrandizement and try to make ourselves look better. A third thing that we'll do is we'll attribute success solely to our own efforts. There is no person on this earth who has created success in any area where you did it by yourself. And that should not have you feeling less than who you are. Because people who have come before have written books. You've watched videos to teach you how to do the thing. There is always a list of people who have helped you get to where you are or achieve the thing that you did. Let's say you're an excellent cook. Don't attribute that solely to your own efforts. Be humble enough to acknowledge that there were other people you learned from. You watched cooking channels, you have a cookbook, you tried different things from ideas you got online or from friends. Be humble enough to acknowledge that other people have helped you, that other people have helped you achieve what you've achieved or get to where you are, whether it's in a personal development challenge that you've dealt with, getting over an addiction, whatever it is. Attribute that success to you and all the people who have gone before that have helped you. Then that quickly changes it from us vaunting ourselves to being humble and being able to acknowledge our achievements and acknowledge the help that we've received. So what are the things that we can do? I'm going to give you a few things you can be watching for this week. Once you pick the one particular area that you want to work on, keep these few things in mind. Number one, regular self-reflection. Be aware and be humble. Spend time meditating or thinking in your prayers with Heavenly Father. Talk to Him about this, about something that you notice that you want to work on. And pay attention to other people who seem to be very good at this. And don't look at it like a comparison. Look at it like, wow, they're good at this. How can I do it? I remember I have a friend who is so amazing at not seeing bad in other people. She is so good at it that I trust her implicitly with me and my reputation. And I remember I went to her one time and I said, tell me what you do. And she said, well, I just love people. And, she kind of gave these more generic answers, which to her were the real answer. I said, no. I said, there is a step process that you are doing. There is something that you think in your head. And so she thought about it. And then the next time we talked about it, she said, I realize that what I do, basically she's making a choice. When someone starts to say something, she chooses compassion over judgment. But she started to realize there was a step-by-step process that she went through. So the first step of this process is self-reflection. Be aware and be humble. Then I want you to practice active listening. Instead of trying to dominate a conversation, instead of trying to make sure that you get to tell your part, and then what I want you to do is I want you to understand what the other person is saying. And I also want you to be aware of something. In conversations, when someone else says something, are you then responding, oh, I didn't do that because I didn't have the right kind of equipment? Do you notice how that's a comparison? So we don't want this happening on either side because it's unhealthy either way. And the goal is to become Christ-like, to come closer to Jesus Christ. And by practicing this and being aware of it, we are going to come closer to Jesus Christ. And the third thing might seem a little bit out in left field, but this is a powerful thing you can do. It is acts of service. Because when you are engaging in acts of service, especially when it's anonymous, it helps cultivate this sense of love and care and concern for other people. Because what's your focus? The scriptures say, where your treasure is, there will your heart be also. Where's your treasure? Where's your focus? What's important to you? If what's important to you is serving and finding ways to look for what other people might need, all of a sudden your focus isn't as much on your own needs. Do we need to focus on our needs? Of course we do. We want to do it in a healthy way. But make sure that our focus becomes outward instead of inward. Jesus Christ was the perfect example for this. It started from the day he was born. He was born into humble circumstances. He didn't have to be. He was the Son of God. He is the Savior of the world. And yet he chose to be born in circumstances that were the lowliest of the low instead of in a palace or a place of luxury. He washed his disciples' feet. He was the leader. He was the Lord. He washes the feet of his disciples. He is Jesus. He's the Lord. And yet he washes his disciples' feet. This is a task that's typically reserved for the lowest of servants. This is a profound act that exemplifies this leadership that he's trying to teach us in becoming charitable. And he not only washed their feet, but he used that as a teaching moment and helped us understand that as a leader, that's the kind of leader we need to be. And then one of his ultimate acts of love was his sacrifice on the cross. He ultimately sacrificed his whole life, everything, not only as an act of immense love that is beyond our understanding, but it was also an act of profound humility. Think about who he was, and yet he vaunted not himself. He suffered without trying to seek for sympathy, without trying to get attention, without having vengeance. And so when we think about what happened in Jesus' life and the example that he is for us, we can find our guidance. That's where we find our inspiration to cultivate this kind of love. Let's work toward this Christ-like character. Let's work on not vaunting ourselves and see what kind of changes we can make in a week. And I'll tell you, when our focus is on this one thing all week, we'll make significant changes, more than would seem possible, because we can draw on the powers of heaven to help us. And that's what we do in our prayers in the mornings and the evenings. Thank you for joining me. I'm excited to see what this week will bring.